9 experienced hikers. One freezing night in the Soviet mountains. A tent slashed open from the inside. And a mystery that has baffled investigators for over 60 years. What happened at Dyatlov Pass is so terrifying, so unexplainable, that it's become one of the world's most chilling unsolved mysteries. January 1959. The height of the Cold War. 9 Soviet university students and graduates set out on what should have been a routine skiing expedition through the Ural Mountains. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, this wasn't just any group of weekend warriors. These were experienced mountaineers, well-equipped and familiar with extreme conditions. Their destination? A Torten Mountain, a name that translates to "don't go there" in the local Mansi language. They had no idea they were walking into a nightmare that would puzzle the world for decades. The group started their trek on January 27, 1959. For the first few days, everything went according to plan. But then, something changed. On February 1st, they reached the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, another ominously named peak, meaning Mountain of the Dead. Instead of camping in the sheltered forest below, they made a puzzling decision. They pitched their tent on the exposed, wind-battered slope. Igor Dyatlov's diary entry that day was his last. It's hard to imagine such a comfort in a tent on the ridge with a piercing wind, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements. What happened next defies explanation. Sometime during the night of February 1st, something so terrifying occurred that 9 experienced mountaineers abandoned their tent in panic. But here's what makes this truly bizarre. They didn't run out through the tent entrance. They cut their way out from the inside, slashing through the fabric with knives. Think about that for a moment. They were so desperate to escape that they destroyed their only shelter in -30-degree Fahrenheit weather. And then they ran. Barefoot, half-dressed, into the killing cold of a Siberian winter night. The footprints found later showed no signs of struggle, no evidence of being chased, just 9 sets of tracks leading away from the tent in organized groups. When the group failed to return as scheduled, search parties were deployed. On February the 26th, nearly a month later, searchers found their tent, still standing, weighted down with snow. Inside, they found the hikers' boots, warm clothes, and personal belongings neatly arranged. These weren't panicked people who fled in chaos. They had time to organize their things. But outside, the mystery deepened. Following the trail of footprints, searchers made their first grim discovery at a cedar tree about a mile from the tent. 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, were found beneath the tree, dead from hypothermia. But the strange details were just beginning. The tree's branches were broken off up to 15 feet high. In their desperate final moments, they had climbed this tree in the freezing cold. But why? What were they looking for? What were they running from? Their hands showed signs of severe burns, and their clothes had strange, precise cuts. Not tears, but deliberate slashes. Between the tent and the cedar tree, searchers found 3 more bodies. Igor Dyatlov, Rustem Slobodin, and Yuri Krivonishenko, who had apparently tried to return to the tent, but succumbed to the cold. But 4 hikers were still missing. It would take until May, when the snow melted, to find them. What investigators discovered in a ravine 250 feet from the cedar tree was far more disturbing than simple hypothermia deaths. These 4 had survived the longest. They had even managed to cut clothing from their deceased friends to stay warm, but their injuries were impossible to explain. Ludmila Dubinina was found missing her tongue and eyes. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol had a massive skull fracture with no external trauma. Alexander Zolotaryov had severe chest injuries. His ribs were crushed from the inside out. The coroner, Boris Vozrojdeny, stated that the force required to cause such injuries would be equivalent to a car crash. But there were no external wounds, no bruising, no signs of a struggle. Then came perhaps the most unsettling discovery of all. Some of the hikers' clothing tested positive for radioactive contamination. In 1959, in the middle of the Siberian wilderness, what could possibly contaminate their clothes with radiation? The levels weren't lethal, but they were definitely present. And this was decades before Chernobyl. The official investigation was led by Lev Ivanov, an experienced prosecutor. But what he discovered made the Soviet authorities very uncomfortable. Multiple witnesses reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky on the night of February 1st, bright orbs that moved in impossible patterns. One of the hikers, Semyon Zolotaryov, had a camera. When the film was developed, the final frames showed mysterious bright objects in the sky. Ivanov wanted to investigate further, but suddenly the case was classified. The official cause of death? Hypothermia caused by unknown compelling force. Unknown compelling force. In other words, we have no idea what happened, but we're not going to admit it. So what really happened that night? Over the decades, theories have ranged from the scientific to the supernatural. Theory 1. Avalanche. Some suggest an avalanche forced them from their tent. But searchers found no evidence of avalanche debris, and the tent was still standing. Theory 2. Military testing. The Soviet military was testing weapons in the area. Perhaps the hikers witnessed something they shouldn't have. This could explain the radiation and the cover-up. Theory 3. Katabatic winds. Powerful downdrafts can create infrasound, frequencies that cause panic and disorientation in humans. Maybe nature itself drove them to madness. Theory 4. Ball lightning. Rare electrical phenomena could explain the lights, the radiation, and the burns on the bodies. Theory 5. The Yeti. Local legends speak of the Menk, a creature that inhabits these mountains. Ridiculous? Maybe. But it would explain the inexplicable injuries and the terror that drove them into the night. Theory 6. UFO encounter. The lights in the sky, the radiation, the precise nature of some injuries, the government cover-up. It all fits the pattern of alleged extraterrestrial contact. In 2019, Russian authorities officially reopened the case. Their conclusion: an avalanche. But this explanation satisfies almost no one. The evidence simply doesn't support it. Meanwhile, new theories continue to emerge. Some researchers now believe a combination of factors: military testing creating panic-inducing infrasound, combined with hypothermia-induced paradoxical undressing, could explain the bizarre behavior. But even these explanations can't account for all the evidence. Today, Dyatlov Pass has become a pilgrimage site for mystery enthusiasts and investigators from around the world. The tent location is marked by a simple memorial. Visitors report an overwhelming sense of unease, even in daylight. Some say the mountain itself feels wrong, that there's something in the air that makes you want to leave. 9 experienced hikers went to sleep in their tent on February 1st, 1959. Something happened that night that was so terrifying, so incomprehensible, that they chose certain death over staying in their shelter. Was it natural phenomena? Military secrets? Something supernatural? Something from beyond our world? The mountain of the dead keeps its secrets. And perhaps that's exactly how it wants it. What do you think happened at Dyatlov Pass? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed diving into one of history's greatest mysteries, subscribe for more unexplained cases that will keep you up at night. Because the world is full of mysteries, and some of them are better left unsolved.